Hello and welcome everybody to our webinar about how you can create integrations around PortaSwitch in the era of AI. The webinar is conducted by myself, Andrei Zelenko, CEO of PortaOne, and Mike Kidik, product officer of PortaOne. And we're going to talk about how our customers, how you can create things around PortaSwitch, attaching it to your networks, to your back office applications, to your AI applications, to anything you can imagine with minimum efforts and maximum efficiency using the AI agents, specifically AI coding agents, and other expertise. And from our side, we'll tell you what we have done, what kind of improvements we have created on the PortaSwitch side, and we will do a live demo. So I will try to code the task which is described here to create a connection between PortaSwitch through the service provisioning system into an external system, and from scratch, almost from scratch, using AI coding agent. So we'll see how it goes. And as I mentioned, we will have time dedicated to answer your questions, so please type them in the Q&A section. You can start this now, so if you listen, if you want to know more information about something, you can type it there right away. It will stay in Q&A until we're done with the presentation, then we can handle the conversation. And of course, if we will not have time to answer all of your questions or something will be too specifically discussed here, I promise we will not just forget about them. We will follow up later on. And if your colleagues or somebody interested in PortaSwitch could not attend this webinar live, we will publish recording later on, so they will not be left out. And with that, I'm passing the microphone to Mike, who will tell you about enhancements on PortaBilling API side.
Hello, everyone. Before I jump into API 2.0, let me just take a step back into a little bit of history, or explaining what's wrong with the current API. Yeah, the current API was introduced in 2006, and that's almost 20 years ago. And it followed basically the structures, the naming, the objects, the attributes were named pretty much like they are named in the database. And all this stuff was very relevant in 2006, but obviously PortaBilling evolved a lot, right? I mean, now it can charge for a variety of different services, mobile services, internet access, IPTV, you name it. And also the services, even the VoIP services, which were the core functionality in 2006, they also evolved, and terminology changed, and some stuff is done differently these days than 20 years ago. So when we started API 2.0, we wanted to change the structure, change the naming, and reflected the terminology and the things which are normally used in modern era of telecommunications. And I'll have an example of that on the next slide. So let's go to the next point. No, Andrew, let me finish the list. So the next point is that the new API is using a REST design. Basically, all objects, all methods are organized the way the typical REST API is done. And this is very helpful for third-party developers if they ever done any integration using REST API, or they did some programming and they are familiar with the way how REST API is structured. It is much easier for them to understand and to use the specific methods which are needed for their task at hand. But more importantly, and this is something which Andrew is going to demonstrate, when API uses REST design, it can be utilized by modern AI agents. Modern AI agents have no problem finding specific methods, specific services, and generate a code which would, invoke required methods and do everything that is required by a particular task. The next point, the next improvement is related to querying data from the PortaBilling. So with existing API, when you, let's say, read the customer information, that customer object or customer structure would have references to other objects. For example, to a customer class or to a reseller or to any other object, yeah? But it will be just a reference, some ID. And then in order to get information from that other object, you need another API call, yeah? So you need another request to, for example, to read all the details of the customer class. And then if for some reason you need to read the reseller data, you also need another API request. So what we now have in API 2.0 is that when you query for some object, you can optionally request additional information from those related objects. You can just indicate that, hey, I also need a customer class data, or I also need a reseller data. So you, with a single request, you get several linked objects, and it is designed to improve performance of the API, right? There should be less back and forth between the client and the web server running PortaBilling. Another improvement is the ability for the code to query only specific attributes of the objects instead of getting a huge customer. So if a third-party developer, for example, develops some portal in a particular self-care portal, and in one place they are just interested in, in customer status, whether it's, in normal status or maybe it's suspended or blocked. They need information about current balance and any outstanding amount on the last invoice. They can request that particular information when they are getting the customer data. They can request only that particular pieces, and they don't need to get to be involved with, a huge customer structure which has probably like 100 attributes, and most of those attributes this particular developer may not be even familiar with, may not even understand what it is. And the last improvement in the list is we reworked the error handling in the API. So we also rewrote quite a few error messages. So now troubleshooting, when an API call produces an error, troubleshooting should be much easier. And now let me give you an example with changed structures and changed terminology. So what I have here is that and on the left, it's a new structure in the API 2.0 when you try to create a customer hunt group. I mean, a hunt group under the customer. Yeah, so this is portion of the request. And in this request, you would basically provide all the customer information, and you could also, all the hunt group information, and you could also immediately list all the members of the hunt group. But I don't know if you are aware, PortaBilling allows to create nested hunt groups when one hunt group is included in another. I know it's not a very popular scenario, but bigger organizations tend to organize their hunt groups like that. So it is possible to include one hunt group in another hunt group. And if you're creating a hunt group and you want to include another hunt group here and also some extension into this hunt groups that you are creating, you have a list of objects, and they can be one of those two types. It's either a specific hunt group that you are adding with corresponding attributes, or a specific extension or a list of extensions with corresponding attributes when they add it to the hunt group. I think it's very straightforward. It's simple to understand. Anybody who dealt with hunt groups in PBX should understand how to do it, right? Now let's look at how it's done in the existing API. In the existing API, when you're making a call to create a hunt group, there is just one structure, one list called add extensions. And I know for the fact that some developers could never wrap their head around this idea that you list both extensions and included hunt groups into a single structure. But that's how it's expected to work. The reason behind it is, again, because that's how it's stored in the database, and the current extension is basically a reflection of the database structure. So I hope this example just illustrates how the naming and the structures are changed in the new API. So let's get to the next slide. There is one more feature which I would like to mention, because I I think not many PortaBilling customers are aware of it, and it's somewhat related to the main topic of this webinar. It is possible in PortaBilling and in Cloud PBX Portal to embed information from other systems. And here I have an example where the customer page on the administrator interface has this embedded referrals frame, basically, and that one shows information from another system. So it's one of our customers who developed their own referral system. And the rule is that basically any customer can sign up or bring other customers and get some bonuses as long as those other customers are they actively use service and pay for those services. So that's basically what this frame shows, the list of referrals that are active and for which this customer is supposed to get a bonus, and also the list of referrals who are currently inactive. Another example of this embedded information is on the next slide, and that's basically Cloud PBX Portal, which has an embedded store page, right? Basically, this is for your customers on the Cloud PBX Self-Care Portal to order some gadgets, some phones and some other stuff. So that's another example. The reason I'm mentioning it here, because with modern AI technology and the proper API of those third-party systems, it became quite easy to generate such pages or such frames and embed them into PortaBilling or Cloud PBX interface. But let's get back to the main topic of our webinar. So I'm passing the microphone to Andrew.
Okay, so PortaBilling, it's a system which handles the customer information and charge it, but the service is typically provided by some external system. And the question is, how do we activate the service there or deactivate if a customer doesn't pay or something else? And for many years, we had an existing system called Good Old. It has abbreviation ESPF, External Systems Provisioning Framework, and was working and did many amazing projects. However, it had a few limitations. One of them was because it was the changes which happened on the administrator interface, on the self-care interface. Basically, we track the changes in the database. And when the change in database happens, for instance, somebody changed the account password or changed product assigned to an account, that is queued and then is sent to external application via webhook, basically HTTP post. That application does whatever is required, maybe activate the SIM card on HSS, maybe add some channels in the IPTV platform, and it is working. However, the challenges were, because we were working at the database level, the events which have to be processed by this application, they're quite low level. So you have to really be familiar with, again, the structure of different objects. And most importantly, this webhook, it only receives basic information that something was changed on account with ID 12345. And then this application is responsible for retrieving the data from PortaBilling. And it means connecting to the API and doing work with fairly complex structures. So in reality, people who will be writing those webhooks, they have to be somebody who's very familiar with PortaBilling, structures, API, and so on. And that, of course, severely limited the amount of those applications being written. And we're now in the era of AI. We want people to be able to vibe code those applications, when ideally people who are doing this, they are not a developer familiar with PortaBilling, or maybe not even a developer. So what we have done, the new service provisioning system. First of all, it is not a replacement for ESPF. It is an extension of ESPF. So once the change in PortaBilling happened, it was processed by regular PortaBilling means. This event is delivered to NSPS, which runs in a cloud, which opens up now for us possibilities to have queues, to have scalability, to do many amazing things. And inside there's going to be separate queue for each handler. So if we have to provision HSS, IPTV, and ERP, there's going to be 3 separate queues. And if one of them is delayed, that's their problem. The team will be working on it, but the provisioning of other applications should not be delayed. And that was something which sometimes there were issues with ESPF. But the key change there is that all style application has to go to PortaBilling and retrieve the data. And if we have 3 separate webhook handlers, they will go to PortaBilling and they will ask for exactly the same information, account info. So this would create an extra load on PortaBilling. So what we did, NSPS contains a component which does service data retrieval. It retrieves account information, SIM card information, basically whatever is required for service provisioning. It was written by our developers. They know PortaBilling API. So the application here will just receive a single JSON object with the data they need. And because it's done here, we can cache the request. So if there are 3 or 10 handlers which need account information for the same account, within a few seconds difference, we'll just only send one request to PortaBilling, which drastically reduces the load. So this gives truly ability to a person who is not familiar at all, who they may have never seen PortaBilling interface in their life, but they can create an application, microservice, which will receive inbound request and then send the outbound one. And there are a few other nice to have features. For instance, things happen, things go wrong. If there was an error in the code, maybe it wasn't processing certain types of SIM cards or certain types of accounts because of mistake in the code, because of misconfiguration on PCRF, you can see the events which had error status, and then you can just replay those events and they will be re-provisioned. Okay, well, enough theory, because everybody can write a nice PowerPoint. The question is, do we have a product which actually lives up to the expectations? So we're going to do a live demo. The scenario is we have subscriber created in PortaBilling. So I have created it ahead of time just to save everybody's time. I'm pretty sure people attending this webinar have seen enough of PortaBilling UI. We will process events related to changes with account. And we had a discussion of what should I actually provision, in which system we should change the information. If it could do it in real HSS, there is no easy way for me to show you it actually works. So we decided to actually do the other way. We will just do Google Sheets through APIs, and we'll show how it is modified there. Because the idea is to demonstrate how we can do it connecting two APIs, one of NSPS, another of some external system. Let me show you the preparations which I have done. So what we have? Well, first of all, there's of course the documentation page about how you should create this connector. I'm going to be feeding it to my AI agent. There is account which I have pre-created in PortaBilling, and there is NSPS. This is the administrator interface. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to create another handler, and I will point it to my application which I'm about to develop. I'm choosing that. I will just process any events for simplicity's sake for now. Then I want to have information about account, SIM card, and main product sent to my handler. I need service URL. So that is where request is going to be sent. We do want to put some basic authentication, so some evil hacker is not going to send us fake provisioning events. This is basically it. And here's the Google Sheet which I have. And of course, beforehand, I logged into Google Cloud. I have my credentials. I have everything prepared. Again, I don't want you to waste your time looking at me going through Google Cloud Access Manager and so on. So let's So what we have, this is Cursor AI, but of course you're welcome to use Upload Code or any other your preferred coding agent. The directory is mostly empty. I have a copy of this wiki page with the documentation. I have OpenAPI specifications for the API, and I have a script just with example requests so it can actually test it. And I didn't want you to be wasting your time looking at me typing the prompt. I have a prompt. As you can see, it's very standard. I'm telling it to develop an application using the API provided by NSPS for inbound requests, and then outbound changes will have to be done in the Google Cloud, and a few instructions related to Python, how that ideally the final product will be deployed in Google Cloud. Can be Amazon, can be anything else that you prefer. Okay, it's starting to work. It will take some time. And also, I think you've seen things like this before. So to make it a bit more efficient, while I'm doing this, and I'll keep sharing my screen, Mike will run a simple poll because we want to learn a bit more about what are your goals in sense of provisioning external systems. Which ones you need, which ones we need most, because maybe we will either create modules for them ourselves, or at least we will help you with some guidance and directions.
Okay, so I launched the poll. Please provide your answers. You should get a pop-up window in Zoom. And of course, you can continue to look at the exciting command line interface, observing how AI generates a code for provisioning. Okay, I guess we have half of participants, votes from half of participants. I guess that's it. That's all the integration tasks that that our participants require in the near future. So let me end the poll now and let's see the results. Yeah, you should get another dialog or window from Zoom now, and it should show you the results. So as you can see, CRM systems are by far the most popular, or there is the highest demand for integration with CRM system, which is not surprising at all, right? But we just have another proof that it's, and mobile cores, integration with mobile cores is still very relevant. And basically that's what Andrew is emulating. I understand the data would be put into the Google Sheet, but that's just because if we were to provision the data into the actual mobile core, how would we show you that the data was correctly provisioned and the mobile service is actually provided to a particular subscriber with a particular SIM card? Yeah, so that's why we are just doing this kind of emulation, just putting the data into the Google Sheet. Anyway, so let me hide the results now.
One comment which I have about the results, because this is for CRM. Typically, I would imagine you want to sync the customer information. And the NSPS was created primarily to facilitate provisioning of accounts, because this is where we need to provision a lot of data, and they're all fairly uniform. The provisioning of CRM, especially for customer, usually there's a lot of conditional logic. You need specific things. For that, if it turns out you have something fairly complex and not just, okay, we got an event, we just need to update information. We also have a tool called PortaOne Workflows, which also is not going away. This is a low-code platform where you can provision these things using UI. And both approaches are still valid. It very well maybe for some projects you will be better off, especially if we're talking about individual accounts, or NSPS probably would be the preferred choice. If we're talking about customer information with some advanced logic, it may be workflows, or it also could be using the same approach, AI-based assistance and writing the code using AI generators. And for those of you who are software developers and you are afraid that maybe you will become obsolete and they'll replace you fully, well, not exactly. There's, at least for now, there's many things which AI cannot do well immediately, but if you know what is going on, if you know what is supposed to be happening, then you can do it, and this allows you to be much faster. And check the configuration. So this is the document ID. That's it. Okay, so we have application running. Let's test it first using our local tool. Okay, so we got some event. At least the application receives events. Looks good. Let's switch back to our NSPS configuration. Yeah, and we're going to our PortaBilling interface. Let's save my data. Okay, so we got the event. Let's see what is happening. Okay, well, looks like has been processed. And here we can see some logs. We can see, for instance, that it goes and does retrieval of information from PortaBilling as we need it. We don't see the data appearing here. Well, okay, so it works for my test script. It says getting confused with some data received from PortaBilling. I don't want to waste your time. That's something which should probably be finished debugging in the next 10 to 15 minutes. As that happens with AI assistants, which means we were going to have a job in the next years or so. But you get the idea, and you get how it works in general. Let me just finish talking about the NSPS. So for all the customers who want to try NSPS in the near future, we have a special offer for people who do it within the next month. First of all, not just the software which we'll provide a free session with our business analyst. So you will be able to discuss specific use cases, and they can suggest whether NSPS is the best fit, maybe it's workflows, maybe it's something totally different. You will have your own dedicated instance of NSPS, so it is in the cloud, but it's your own, totally separated from others, so there are no concerns about data privacy or things happening with the data of your customers. We don't charge per connector, because this was one of the concerns for people who are using workflows. It's based in Boomi, and for each connector, so if you have 3 workflows, different ones going to a CRM that maybe maybe charge for 3 separate connectors. Here is not the case. There's a base fee, and the only metric we use is the amount of events processed, because obviously for somebody who will be doing 1 million events per month, or somebody who will be doing 100 million events, it's a different load. So there may be some additional SaaS metrics based on that. And for the early adopters who are willing to start now in 2025 in the summer, we will waive all the cloud fees until the end of the year, so you will get for free. And after that, we can offer you a permanent discount on our standard subscription fee. And of course, this is a way for you to save on the development cost and do a lot of local developments using your own teams, using AI. So let's check the Q&A session. Actually, while Mike is doing this, let me give one final attempt to see what is wrong, and maybe I'll be able to fix it. Mike, do we have anything in the Q&A?
Not really. Yeah, but let's give some time. So the participants, if you have any questions about the NSPS, about the handler generated by AI and so on, or about API 2.0, please type them into there is a separate window in Zoom called Q&A. So please type your questions there. But so far, no questions.
I had a question during my previous demo, and that was about also how to jumpstart with development and which technologies can be used. Well, the answer is you can use potentially any technology, any programming language you want, any framework, Node.js, Python, whatever. However, also here I did a bit of a more complex scenario because I was supposed to write everything from scratch. We actually have a written Python adapter, which has the server and everything ready. The only thing you need to insert there, it's your custom logic. So it already jump starts the development. It's available publicly on our GitLab page. We will send the link later on.
Yeah, I believe this also demonstrates the, how should I say it? The other side of the coin with using AI to develop code. Because no matter how many times, so I'm talking about this particular demonstration, no matter how many times you exercise this demonstration, right? And believe me, Andrew did that multiple times before we scheduled this webinar. No matter how often you do it, AI is, at this point, AI is a variable which is, let's say, less predictable. Yeah. So no matter how many times you run the exercise of generating the code, yeah, if you generate it sometime later, at this point you are not guaranteed to get the same result. So when previously Andrew generated the code, it just worked and it populated the Google Sheet. This time, yeah, when the same AI agent was run, it generated slightly different code and we don't get the result. So this is something which is definitely can be improved in the future. And
there was a question about MCP, where we're going to provide MCP server for PortaBilling. Well, we already actually did. There was a demo when we connected an MCP to, I think that was directly to the database. So it is a bit dangerous, but potentially also can be connected to the APIs. My personal opinion that we should not try to do it the way, I think it was Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. He said that all the SaaS companies will go away because it's just going to be kind of a database with some API and then AI agents modifying this. Well, not exactly this, but for me, a full-blown MCP for all of the PortaBilling operations, I don't think it's going to be useful, because the trick is the API is there already. You can make the changes. The question is if the API will be able to make it intelligently enough. However, I see a good potential for MCP for specific tasks. For instance, maybe for doing some type of configuration. Or another project which is currently under development and we hope to present results very soon is called AI Data Link. Some of you may remember we developed protocol PortaBilling, and unfortunately we had to stop it because it turned out we developed it a few years before AI appears. It was the old approach. We're trying to extract the data into cloud warehouse and build data sets and provide some analytics. Turned out the requirements for this analytics were so different. And there were not two customers with the model being the same. So we ended up stopping the development. But now the situation is different. We can, and we now have actually one customer already using it in production. When we will provide the data sets in the cloud, and then you will be able to attach your AI system, MCP server, tools such as RAN, AI, and other things. And then you will be able to run those analytics. And we already have the tools for that prepared. We're testing it, and that's something you will be able to do. And also, it will use the cloud. It will be running in the cloud parallel to your Porta switch. So then the data in PortaBilling is being truncated because we don't want to keep a lot of data. The data in the cloud is going to be accumulated to have their available history. Okay, no. Let's give it one last chance. Okay, so you should never give up. You will always get the result. You will get result eventually. Okay, so as you can see, we managed it worked. It took probably about 10-15 minutes, as we promised. So it does not allow just anybody with no programming experience or knowledge at all to do this, but for a person with basic programming knowledge and just knowing the basic structures, or well, PortaBilling very basic structures and knowledge of the API, they can accomplish this. Okay, with that, I would like to thank all the participants. If you have a specific project where you feel NSPS may be useful, send us an email. We can talk, we can discuss, and we can suggest, because maybe it will be not NSPS, but something else, which will help you to improve. And I also always encourage our customer to talk more to customer success managers to let us know about your future plans, what you're trying to develop, because sometimes we can have things such as AI Data Link, which are in the works. They're not published yet, but we know about them already, so we can synchronize the development and do it together. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, participants, and thank you, PortaOne team, who helped us to prepare for this webinar.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, participants.